Hello, 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 and welcome everyone. We are going to get started. My name is Julie Watson, and I am super excited to introduce our two lovely hosts that will be doing this webinar tonight. If you could advance the screen. Before we get started, I want to do some just a little housekeeping. So this is a family-friendly program. We cannot see you, we can't hear you. You can be enjoying this webinar in the pleasure of your own home, whichever that may be. We can't hear your dog barking or anything like that. But you can interact with us in two ways. We have a chat box, which some of you have been testing out. It does help if you change your setting to send to all panelists and attendees. It automatically pops up as just all panelists, which means that only Sam, myself, and Leah can see what you're saying. But if you change it to all panelists and attendees, then all the attendees can see it as well. Then the second way you can interact with us is there's a Q&A box, and this is a good place to ask questions. You may utilize both of those. We will be looking at them throughout this webinar, and then at the very end, we'll have some dedicated Q&A time as well. We do ask that you keep this anything in the chat in the Q&A on topic and appropriate. This is a PG-13, I'm sorry, PG, not PG-13. This is a PG family friendly program. No profanity, no inappropriate behavior, and keep it chill in the chat. If you could advance to the next slide. And then at the very end, we will answer questions. Hopefully you will have questions, and there will be a survey so you can let us know how we're doing. So without further ado, we have Sam and Leah.
Hello. So Sam and I were to do a little with everyone. Sam and I actually met and are the Nevada support group, which is a support group that we started. We had found that we have we were looking for something very specific in a mom support group, and we were more support for ourselves as adventurers, and also that support in kids that you take outside on adventures and go camping. So I'll let Sam kind of introduce herself and her background a little bit with you, and then I'll kind of carry on the presentation.
All right, hi everybody. I'm Sam. I have my 1.5-year-old here with me, Zoe. I have her occupied on YouTube right now. But yeah, so I'm really happy to be here. I am a National Outdoor Leadership School alumni. 2008, I did a semester in the Southwest, canoeing, backpacking, rock climbing, and caving when I was 19, 20 years old. And then I'm also an AmeriCorps Trail Crew alumni from 2011, where I was on a trail crew team for 5 months. I did 900 hours of service, and I restored hiking trails around the Tahoe area and on the PCT. And then I currently work at UNR. I'm the K-12 outreach coordinator in the College of Engineering. So I coordinate engineering programs for kids in the community. And then I also teach part-time in the College of Business. I teach volunteer management and leadership. And then I also teach business communications. And I love to boulder and rock climb. And that is how I met Leah. And now I'd say we are pretty good friends.
And then do you want to just talk about your kids, how old they are?
Oh, yes, I should probably do that too. So I have Zoe here with me.
Yeah, we are moms.
Yes, we are moms. So Zoe is 1.5, and then I have a 2.5-year-old Ella. And I got pregnant 5 months postpartum with Ella, or after I had Ella. So Zoe was not planned, which I'm glad she came along. I'm very happy. So they're almost Irish twins. And then I'll just add in there that Ella's first hiking trail was somewhere down in South Reno, in Galena Forest area, when she was 8 weeks old. And then I was adventurous enough to take Zoe on her first hike up at Donner when she was 1 week old, which my doctor probably would not want to hear that. So if Dr. Capurro is listening, I'm sorry.
And then I'm Leah. I got into the outdoors more in-depthly in college, in the club. I became president of that. I'm secretly still get all their emails. And me and my husband, we traveled the country for 2 years, dirt bag, living out of a car, I climb, ski, bike, hike, camp, all the things. My biggest achievement is that I went 25 days without taking a shower. I am also the mom of a now 18-month-old. I think her big achievement is that last year we took her over the entire year. So she did at least 52 hikes locally last year, especially accomplishable in a COVID time. I am currently the assistant manager at Base Camp Climbing Gym. And my husband and I also own Gear Hut, which is a used gear and consignment store here in Reno. That's where me and Sam are located. Sam, do you switch the pages?
Yeah, it should have switched now. I think you're a little glitchy, just a little bit.
Okay. Alrighty, so today cool. Okay, a couple things that we will be talking about today to prepare you for getting outside with your daughter or son. Most of these things do apply for anybody. Just it's more the mental preparation of learning how to prepare yourself to get your kids outside. So we're going to talk about 10 essentials for taking your kid outside. Anybody who has hiked on their own before has probably come across these concepts. They definitely do tweak a little bit when you're getting involved with taking out others and you're not just preparing for yourself. As moms, Sam and I can chime in on all of the needed gear that you'll need and also really kind of maintain that engagement with kids. Ultimately, if everyone's having a good time, you're going to be more likely to be set up for success in wanting to head out for more adventures, which is the ultimate goal.
All right. Sorry, everybody's home from school now. Hi, Ella, you want to say hi really quick? Where's your present? Did Daddy say you have a present?
Oh boy.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to take a moment to talk about the 10 essentials. And like Leah said, this is different for everybody. And it changes. It really depends on your kids, you as a hiker. I know, for instance, my girls refuse to wear hats. Give me one moment. I'm going to shut my door and lock it. Aha. Okay.
Where Sam's chiming in, I've really struggled with we need to wear sunglasses. Wearing sunglasses is impossible. But in Nevada, that's something you kind of want to encourage. So you'll have a struggle, but you kind of pick and choose your battles and find what works for you.
Yes, that is a really great point. And my girls, they love to play with sunglasses. Sometimes they wear them. I mean, now that they're a little bit older and they're toddlers, they kind of mimic what I do. So that's really nice, which means I'm setting a good example. So that's good. But yeah, reviewing the trail and weather before you go. Think about the type of hiker you are. Are you at a beginner level? Are you intermediate? Are you doing something super extreme? How safe is it to actually take your child on that hike? Like, for instance, here in Northwest Reno, there's Hunter Creek Trail that goes up to a really beautiful waterfall. I don't know if I would want to take my girls on that just yet, simply because it is so steep when you're going through the canyon I have tripped and fallen before in front of my husband on that trail on my own with a water bottle. So I don't want to do that with children. So review the trail and the weather, sun coverage, whatever that may look like for you. Our girls, especially if they're in packs, instead of putting, we have their shoes, but we always put socks on to cover their skin. Plenty of fluids, whether that be Pedialyte, Gatorade, depending on what age they are. And then if your kiddos are, still drinking milk, breast milk or formula. So I'll speak from my experience and then I'll let Leah take over her experience. I was a formula mom, I guess is what I'll call myself. I was not interested in breastfeeding. I was like, that is just, it's the most natural thing a woman could do. And it did not feel natural to me. So I said, I'm not going to press that, for my mental health. And fed is best. So my girls still were fed. So when they would come hiking with us, I just had to really pre-plan how many ounces are they going to need. So especially with Ella, my first baby, I was like, I don't know. Like, so I really had to measure the scoops in the water. I mean, it could become second nature, right? So I just had to learn to pack however bottles I thought she would need, and then have extra water so that when she was ready for a bottle, I would put the water in, mix it. But then you're also dealing with, is she going to drink the whole thing? Is it going to go bad? It's not being refrigerated. So those were all things that I had to consider when, formula feeding my kids.
I know for me, I breastfed, which was extremely convenient when it came to doing like our first camping trip and stuff like that, because as long as I was fed, she was fed. The one thing that came down to is finding clothing, especially for winter hiking, that was boob accessible. I learned very quickly that just pulling up and having half your stomach exposed to snow, wind, and everything was not very comfortable. But it was really nice to have that flexibility. I think something to consider though is with breastfeeding is that you need to make sure you're taking care of yourself. So I tend to be perpetually dehydrated just as a person in general. And so for me, on days when we would go for a longer hike, I really had to make sure that I was accounting for my water intake, because I was also providing for her. The other thing too is I learned quickly, like, when you see a nice spot to sit down, take advantage of that, because you're gonna get into an awkward position. Sometimes just even bringing a sleeping pad or something like that, just strapped to your pack, made sitting down and getting comfortable a lot nicer and more encouraging.
Yeah, and both scenarios I would say are just tough jobs in general, because you always are thinking of that other person, which is your child, when you're hiking. And to our next point, a small first aid kit, you should just always have one anyways, because you never know what's going to happen on the trail. And I mean, I don't think this really counts as first aid, but something that I learned after Ella, I apologize if you hear dogs barking, my dogs are going wacko, is that I had terrible stress incontinence after Ella. So bringing extra poise pads. And finally, once I had kids, I was like, that's what those commercials are for. I get it now. So even just packing those essentials for yourself so that you are comfortable on the trail. Because there's been times where I was hiking with Ella, like in her little Infantino, strap carrier. I was just like peeing like the whole entire way down the trail. So I was like, oh my God, this is embarrassing, but whatever. It's what us women have to deal with. So next, obviously diapers, wipes, blanket for changing. I know that my girls would go through anywhere from like 4 to 6 diapers a day. So just planning how long you think the hike is going to take or your outdoor adventure, and then plan, and always just kind of have more than you might need. You never know when they're going to have a blowout. Ella had a blowout in the Costco on my sister. Oh, the poor thing. That was after Ella's first hike. She had a blowout in Costco. So that was lovely. Okay, moving on from that conversation. So plenty of wipes, and you will appreciate wipes as well. 1 to 2 sets of extra clothing. And Leah and I were talking about this yesterday, is that you never know what adventure you will have after your hike. So we like to go up to Tahoe as a family and go on hikes and adventures. So we pack an extra diaper bag or extra clothing, swimsuits, whatever, like there's just random stuff in both of our vehicles, because we know that we're going to end up at the beach, or we're going to go mini golfing, or we're going to, whatever it may be. Mini garbage bags. I think it's the the ones with the Arm and Hammer, ones that smell good. I can't remember what that brand is. Oh, Munchkin. Those are really, really great. And even if you don't end up using them for diapers, you like last weekend I took Ella to Tahoe to romp around, and we actually picked up garbage in a parking lot and used one of our garbage bags. So another thing that you can use to teach your child a good lesson, a carrier. So we had a hand-me-down Phil and Ted's backpack that was really great. And then we have our Infantino clip strap one that either you can wear them on the front or the back. But at this point, with summer coming up and both my girls are toddlers, I think I've given up on the packs and I'm just going to make them walk, or I'll just carry them or something. Work on your biceps, you know. And then lastly, my husband and I are really big on this together, is that you plan your hike around your child's nap time. So for us, our girls go to daycare. So we know that they both take a nap from like 12:30 to 3. So on the weekends, we know to plan lunch like 11:30 to like 12:30. And we get everything ready during that time. And then by the time they get in the car and we drive somewhere, they're sleeping. And that way they don't miss their nap. But then another thing to think about though, is that the movement and motion of hiking, and if they're in a pack, can also put your kid to sleep. So, and Leah's had a lot of experience with that because I see her all the time on Instagram. Leah's like, or Winnie is like skiing, cross-country skiing with Leah up at Mount Rose. And so Leah, if you want to talk a little bit about your experience with that.
Yeah, so especially when Winnie was smaller, and those naps just kind of happened whenever, we just kind of not forced it, but we didn't have her on a necessarily a really strict schedule. Now that she's more in those toddler ages and it's like one nap a day, maybe two, we really want to make sure they're in their time slots. Another thing too is we basically created an hour radius of Reno. So because you have that potential hour of drive, and then the activity that they might also fall asleep on the activity, and then you also have to get back home. So as much as you're planning to go, you also need to think about the coming back and trying to push like 2 hours somewhere and 2 hours back. That's 4 hours in the car, which if you've ever been in the car with an unhappy baby, you know, can be debilitating. And so you want to always set yourself up for success. Start small, start local, start with that park that's maybe 10 minutes from your house that has a trail at it. And then grow with your kid. If your kid's older, you can have those conversations about, hey, we are going to get in the car. On the first drive, what if we eat our snacks in the car? That way you save the second drive for the nap.
Yep. Yeah. And it's funny that you bring up kids in the car, especially long trips. Like, so we took our girls to Great Basin National Park at the end of July last year, which 103 degrees outside, pulling a tent trailer with a Jeep Wrangler, couldn't have the AC on. Zoe was teething, and I think we only had Tylenol. We didn't have teething gel or anything. Oh my gosh, you guys, 6.5 hours. I mean, we broke it up. Like we would drive 3 hours, camp somewhere, drive the rest of the way the next day, but it's tough. If you quickly will learn the things that you need in your car when you do trips like this. Like I've already this summer, I've already, for my essentials, you know, like my toolbox, I guess is what I'll call it. I already have thoughts of like, okay, what food can I keep in the vehicle for snacks, like in bins, like little clip bins that can withstand a certain temperature in the car. You know, like you don't want to put chocolate.
Nothing chocolate.
Yeah. You don't, or peanut butter, or, you know, but maybe like a Pop-Tart or, well, I don't even know if fruit snacks would work, but it really, you know, like those are the things you have to start thinking about when you start to take your kids on outdoor adventures. All right. So I think we covered a lot on that. So that's good. Okay.
Okay.
Leah, yeah, you.
So I'm going to kind of take over hiking kids with 0 to 4. Obviously, me and Sam both have children that are 100% under 4. So this is going to be kind of geared maybe towards expecting parents or parents that have that younger child. And it's really about inspiring you to just do it. I think a really good thing that my husband excels at, and I really suffered with being a first-time mom, is what he calls the doorstep mile. It's once I'm out of the house, everything's fine. It's just getting the shoes on, getting to the car, and leaving. That's the process. Because that's when, in that process, especially when they're 6 months old, you have everything ready, and then all of a sudden diaper change, and oh, now they're hungry, and so now you have to feed. Oh, but then now they're sleepy, and okay, I don't know. You know what? It's just easier not to do it. And it's always going to be easier not to do it. You just got to do it. Once you do it 2 or 3 times, you're like, oh, this isn't that bad, and I can do it. And they're so happy getting outside. You're so happy getting outside. I think, especially in a year like this one, that everyone's really becoming appreciative of our outdoor spaces and for mental health and everything. So our inspiration for you is to do it. So with the hiking with kids 0 to 4, we're going to kind of focus on how to get out the door. So this is a picture of Sam here with her carrier. When they are littler, I use a Moby wrap, so just a super simple cloth crisscrossy tie them in type of wrap. And 99% of the time when Winnie was under 9 months, she would just pass out. She would just nuzzle in, get all close to you, be all cozy and warm, fall asleep. That was great for winter hiking. I was warm, she was warm, but that wrap system, come summertime, I was like, I just want to be naked and you're a hot, sweaty baby and this is miserable. So thankfully for us, once she had her neck stability, we were able to get her into a backpack similar to what is pictured with Sam here. We had the Osprey pack. So it has that little sun shade that goes over top as well. And what's really nice is it allows you to go hiking with your child by yourself because there's so many storage options in it. I can put a whole like diaper setup, a blanket, water, snacks, all the things you need in like all the little storage nooks, which is great because a lot of times those more cloth carriers, you have to be double packing in order to bring diapers along or be going with somebody else who's carrying all the supplies. So I think that the more heavy duty packs that have decent storage are a really good option if you're looking out for getting into hiking more regularly as your kid grows. I believe they also hold kids up to like 40 pounds. So I've seen some like large, capable children being hauled around in those before. So it can work too if they get sleepy and stuff like that. I think I'm gonna have Winnie in a different setup, or we won't go that far because that's heavy. Anyway, I think another thing to talk about is having low or zero expectations. So for me, pre-Winnie, I was going for a hike almost every day. There was always a goal. It was like, I'm going to do 4 miles, or we're going to get to the waterfall, or we're going to get to the peak. Just say, I'm going outside today. So even if you get to the parking lot, you got somewhere. I know with Winnie, once she gets in the car and she passes out, I always have a book because I'll let her wake up on her own accord once we're in the car, especially with the drive from Reno to Mount Rose. It's like 40 minutes, so it's not quite a nap. So I'll usually bring a book, read for an hour until she's casually waking up, we'll eat some snacks and then head out. But sometimes that amount of time gets us very little hiking time. The other thing too is sometimes they're just not in it. It's a cranky mood, bad day, and that's okay. As your kiddo gets a little bit older, you can start encouraging them to walk on their own. I think actually Winnie's first real steps were outside, which for me as an outdoorsy person was awesome. It's awesome to watch that discovery. So in the house, it's like, oh, the toys I see all the time. Sure, yeah, I'll walk to the froggy toy or the dog's ball or whatever. But outside being like, look, a pine cone. Like, we live down in the desert. What is this thing? And you can go and touch a tree and smell a tree and talk about those different senses. And it's really fun to encourage these different actions. I think a thing that my husband and I realized with Winnie is she's an only child, and because of COVID, she's not seeing a lot of other children. And so we're like, she's not running, like she doesn't know how to run, but she doesn't see anyone run, because why would I run? That sounds terrible. And I'm not gonna like run from the kitchen to the living room. And so we started, we're outside being like, oh, do you want to watch mommy run? Do you want to watch daddy run? And we do like a little jog, and she thinks it's hilarious. And so she started running. So it's creating those different interactions and making it different and making it excitable, while still having those zero expectations. So look at trails that aren't super long, have a nice little feature right at the beginning. Winnie loves benches. So any trail that has benches, she's like, I'm going to climb this bench. We're going to sit on it. So it's funny the things that you'll see with new eyes with hiking with kids under 4.
And also, I just wanted to share too on Leah's point about it. When you have kids and you're trying to get outside, it's really like, hey, I got outside today and we made it to the trailhead and played in the parking lot. But it's about setting those new goals, like as a mom. So it's like, reflect on, well, why is it important for me as a parent, as a mom, to get my children outside? What is it that I want them to get out of the experience? And that's something for me, like the outdoors changed my life when I was 19, 20, because I left college and my parents were like, well, you're not coming home. Like you got to go do something. And that's when they signed me up for this outdoor leadership school that I did. And by the way, you can earn college credits for it. So if you know any older kids or like anyone who wants to go take a gap year or something, I can totally help you out with that. But anyways, it totally changed my life. And I'm just like, well, the outdoors has done so much for me as an individual. Like, how can I get my girls to love the outdoors as much as I do? So
I think on that point too, though, is don't necessarily get disappointed if it's not love at first sight.
Right.
Because it's really easy to want to pressure your kids into things like, I love climbing so much. I want Winnie to climb. But in no way are we gonna to create that pressure of like, you have to be a pro level climber and stuff like that. It's gonna be like, there's some rocks here and I'm gonna go jump on top of them. If you want to too, go for it. If you want to go lick that stick, you can go do that too.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Like Ella is all about big rocks right now. Like when we're outside, that's all she points out is rocks. And then she'll run over to one, get on top of it and jump off. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm obviously monitoring her, but I have a video of her. We went camping in Lassen. How old was she? 10 months, 11 months or something like that. And I have a video of her touching every single rock that it was lining this trail somewhere. And it's adorable. So, but yes. And I'll, take on this hiking with, or no, this is still you. Sorry, Leah.
No, you're good. I think another thing to think about is being patient with your kid too. So it's really easy for you to be like, oh my gosh, the trail sign's right there. Why do you want to touch every single rock? But I now hike with a casual coffee in my hand at all times. It's very low key. I'm like wearing my sandals. And I think it's really, it's a lesson in patience on your end as well. But your kid's gonna get dirty. I just opt with no clothes. Here's a picture of Winnie with no pants on. Because the less clothes, then that means the less laundry, and we're gonna do a bath anyway, right? But realistically, we live in the desert. Everything's pokey, everything's dirty, everything's gonna be dirty, but you can shake it out, which is a nice thing. It's not like you necessarily have mud stains on everything. But I think you have to be okay with being dirty. And I think that's something that one reason why me and Sam started this group is because we had perpetually dirty children. And we didn't judge each other for it. I was like, oh, I like that picture of your dirty kid that you posted. Versus the parents that are like, what are you doing? Why are you letting your kid do that? Another thing too, as your kids are getting older, you can also prep them beforehand. So the day before, let them know, hey, we're going to go on a hike tomorrow. That means when we wake up in the morning, we're going to eat breakfast, we're going to play a little bit, and then we'll get in the car. Just so you can start preparing them for these weird changes in schedule if they are on a very regimented schedule. Another thing that I'm learning, Winnie has just learned no in the last like 3 days, which I think
love no.
I think it's cute now. I'm sure that next week I'll have a very different opinion on that. But setting timers with your child. So Winnie loves, like I said, benches, and she would just climb on the bench and off the bench and on the bench and off the bench and on the bench and off the bench all day long. So it's that, hey, I have my phone right here. A friend actually showed me there's like a volcano timer, and it's when the volcano goes off, we're all done, it's time to go home. And so you can find these different tools to say like, hey, I can see you're having a lot of fun right now, but in order to stay on schedule, when the volcano goes off, we're going to keep moving. And then they get excited about that other thing or the volcano or the timer. Allowing them to have control. So for the most part, now that Winnie's cruising around, I let her guide the way. So sometimes we zigzag and do the same part of the trail like 20 times. We don't actually go anywhere. And the main thing is, did you get outside? Because that's the ultimate goal. It's breathing that fresh air. Hopefully, if it's a not crazy wildfire season, it's spending time in nature. It's exposing your kids to new environments, and it's about creating flexible and adaptable kids that have been exposed to a lot of new sensory things and stuff like that. Because too many kids, it's just the couch, it's just the TV. Those are their main ways of learning. And what's better than that tactile, in the dirt, creative mindset where everything's not necessarily set forward for you and you are encountering a lot of unknowns. So
yeah,
you can do it.
Yes. And it's when you learn to let go, like I felt like in the beginning, I was like, oh gosh, everything's dirty, or like your fingernails, and I just learned to be like, so, serenity now. If anyone is a Seinfeld fan, serenity now. And it's like, just get dirty with your kid, or like sit in the dirt with them. Like, we all know that we can jump in a stream or take a bath or wash our hands afterwards. And they love it. And one thing I want to say too about setting timers and allowing kids to have control, and this is just from my experience from working with kids for the last 10 plus years, especially for toddlers, and preventing breakdowns and tantrums, timers, and decide what you will allow your child to have control over. Like my 2.5-year-old, she talks like she's 4. I don't know where she gets it, and she's very independent. So I know, okay, I can allow her to choose her outfit. I can allow her to choose her snack. I can allow her to choose, to set the timer. Like, she actually presses the button. Trust me, I have had way, way less tantrums and breakdowns simply because of those two things. So it really, really helps. Okay, and then hiking with kids 4 and older. So just making it fun, creating a scavenger hunt. I mean, there's tons of stuff online, and a lot of bloggers, Leah and I, unless Leah, you have a blog I don't know about. But you can easily find them. And I used to run camps and after school programs for a Boys and Girls Club. So I know there's tons of stuff out there that you can just find and you don't have to create on your own. So that's really nice. Creating your own game, hot lava, super fun, or I Spy, and incorporating the senses. What does your child see? What do they smell? I'm from Wisconsin, so Nevada smells way better than Wisconsin does. It doesn't smell like manure. And I went home in August, everybody, and it reeked. But it smelled like home to me. So anyways, we're always touching the sage because it's like velvety and it smells good. We actually have an Audubon book. Is it one of John? I think it might John Muir, with all the plants. And so we have that in one of our cars, and we'll look up flowers that we found, Indian paintbrush and whatever other ones that are out here. Actually found in my front yard a succulent, a random, like, because I think you see them at higher elevation, but there was one like growing in my grass. It was really weird last summer. So anyways, how does the trail feel under their feet? What animals do they hear? And another thing too is I'll bring up that point again of reflection. So your kids, when they're starting to be 4 years old and older, they have the ability to reflect on their experiences and how they feel during those experiences. So maybe coming up with some really fun questions for them to think about, how they're feeling on the trail, or what is it that they're gaining, or what did they learn that day? Think about, how did we get from point A to point B, like those types of things. And then have them, buy their own gear, or have them wear their own gear. Ella has a cute little Camelback. I got it from Gear Hut last year. She loves it. Like when we bring it out and she's pack. Teach them how to pack for a hiking trip. What other gear or 10 essentials can you put into their backpack and have them pack it? And then involve them in planning and picking locations. That's one thing I know Ella, she loves right now. Anytime, she says park. She doesn't know the name of parks, but every time I pick her up from daycare, we talk about the sunset, because we live in Northwest Reno. So we drive west and we're talking about the color of the clouds and, like the mountains and what she sees and stuff. So, involve them in those types of things. And then Leah, I don't know if you have anything that you wanted to touch on with this slide, but.
Yeah, I think with the older kids too, like that elementary school age, you can start incorporating in what they're learning in school and how that translates. So like in terms of involve them in planning and picking locations, like you can use math, or if your kid's super into computers, you can have them do the research. So there's that, like, hey, let's do a bunch of online stuff, but then it translates into this outdoor experience. Or for those kids that are really glued to the phone, have them use the phone, download an app where they can take the pictures of the plant and it tells them what the plants are. Or have them use the camera, or create like a slideshow presentation to show their friends and family after. I think there's ways, and I think it's more in the elementary school ages where there might be some hesitation or negative feeling towards trying something new. And that's where if you can incorporate something that they feel comfortable with into that new experience, it might help ease the transition a little bit.
And one thing that I didn't think about that we could have actually included in this presentation was leave no trace, and incorporating that for older kids, and just teaching them how to be good stewards of our environment. Making sure that when you take your dogs out, are you actually following them into the brush and picking up their dog poop? I'll be honest, it's not like I always do, but I do my best. But teaching your kids about the impact that leaves on our environment if we don't follow the leave no trace principles, and like what it'll do to our community if we don't take care of it.
I think another thing too is taking advantage of a lot of programming that visitor centers have, and national parks, for example. They do the Junior Ranger program, and that's really good too, because it's very step-by-step. They have it all planned out for you. It's checklist. They get a badge at the end. So it's a really educational experience that is almost pre-set up. And so if your kid does really well with that structure, that might be a good concept to look into as well. A lot of visitor centers and outdoor education groups also have like summer camps and stuff like that. Sometimes it's just, I don't want to be with mom and dad. So maybe easing that transition would be, or I don't want mom and dad to teach me these things. So it could be that, hey, I'm going to send you off to this really cool camp. They do a bunch of things. It's like a day camp thing over the weekend. And then they teach you. Because I think that's huge, as making your child feel like they have valuable knowledge and you can learn from them. And they're probably way more retentive on the scientific names and stuff like that our brains are like, I don't have time for that. And you'd be surprised at how much they absorb and can teach you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a really great point. And it reminds me of how at Gear Hut, you guys do the nonprofit of the month, and you had featured a lot of our local youth serving organizations. So for you moms and dads out there, if you need any advice on where to go for any of that stuff, Leah is a really good resource for that, because I follow everything Leah does on Instagram. She probably thinks I'm stalking her every day.
Yeah, Great Basin Outdoor School is a huge resource for those who are here in Reno. They do a lot of free activities. I know they do some scholarship programs as well, and they do camps and stuff like that too. Alrighty, so I'm taking on this one, and it's kind of I feel like an emotional topic. So this discussion was specifically because of Women's Month, hiking with your daughter. And as sad as it is, as a female being out in the world and making choices and doing things on your own, there is this checklist that you go through. And unfortunately, these are skills that we are going to have to pass on to our children. So for me personally, when I go out hiking alone, it's me and the dog. And I will go further and I will do longer things because I feel, and maybe it's a false confidence. I hope he would do something if I was getting hurt. But I feel more comfortable out there with my dog than just with me. Whether that's encountering a wild animal, I'm not sure how that would actually go, or some sketchy people. He can put up the scruff and put up a fight. So I think the big issue is that when I go hiking alone with Winnie, I do not bring the dog because I personally cannot handle a toddler and the dog. With keeping a dog on leash and dealing with a baby, and the baby wants to be in the pack and out of the pack, it's too complicated. So the easiest thing to do is eliminate the dog, leave him at home, and just concentrate on getting out with Winnie. But also being out with just your kid, you are also very distracted. So I tend to try to find trails that are either very open, where I have very good sight on what I'm encountering. I feel pretty confident that I'm not going to come across any wild animals that could potentially be an issue. I can tell if there's sketchy cars in the parking lot, and stuff like that. An easy way to be a smart role model is with anything, let friends and family know where you're going, when you're going to be back, what car you're taking, stuff like that. And that should be just a practice pretty much anytime you're going out. I actually just got a text from my mom saying she was hiking Chickadee Ridge and that it was starting to snow. So she's like, check on me in a little bit. She's okay. Another thing to do that I always do is have a turnaround time to avoid getting caught in the dark. So hiking in, you're so motivated, you're almost to the waterfall, you're so excited, but then you stop, you eat a snack and this, and you're go. And then you realize, shoot, we finally got to the waterfall and it's 4 p.m. It took us 5 hours to get here. I'm now tired. I need to eat food. How long is it going to take you to get back to the car? Hiking with kids, you never know when they're going to give up, and then you're also going to have to carry them and stuff like that. So it's really important to kind of pre-plan out and have that conversation either with yourself or the other people you're hiking with, that for every hour you're going out, plan for an hour and a half back. I know that also as I've gotten older, I'm now officially slower at going downhill than uphill. I don't know when that happened. It used to be the reverse. So I always just plan for every hour towards the destination and an hour and a half back, know when the sun goes down. And that really helps you prevent getting into any sketchy situations. Another thing too is if you have a strange feeling, follow your gut. It's not worth, oh, that felt weird, I'll keep going. Turn around. If you get the heebie-jeebies, get in your car. There's another park you can go to. There's another trail you can go to. It's not worth compromising you or your kids' health and safety. I know, especially now with a lot more people like living out at trailheads and van life and stuff like that, you never know what that car is and stuff like that. So if you have a feeling it's not worth it, follow your gut, call somebody. Yeah. Another thing too, in terms of being a good role model, what Sam was touching on before, is picking up trash and practicing leave no trace. So your kids are going to mimic you, and the more you get them into a good habit now, will create better stewards for our environment in the future. So we always have plastic bag. 90% of the time it's for trash. Every once in a while it's for wet clothing. But it's one of those things like, oh, we came across a water bottle or a Starbucks cup in the middle of the forest. You know what? We can pick it up. We've got hand sanitizer. We've got a bag. We can do something about that. Number 5, I think, is really important, especially as females being alone on the trail, and also just encouraging a friendly and inclusive environment. I've been in mountain town communities where I've gone hiking and you're like, oh, why, hello. And the person just like death stares you, doesn't make eye contact, walks right past, and you feel really disregarded. And it's really sad. I think there's something to be said for being friendly. I know stranger danger is very real, but there's also like, hey, we're all out here, we're all users, we're enjoying the space. Let's be friendly and say hello. I know we're all so like into our phones and who we know, but you can make friends and just be a friendly person. I don't know. I think that's just a big thing in life too. We should say hi to more people. And then the other thing too is you're gonna see tons of people out there. I know a new phrase that's really developed during COVID is the Jerry. And everyone was once a Jerry. I was a total Jerry. I have pictures of me flaunting my brand new climbing harness, and it's like on upside down and backwards. And it's one of my most embarrassing photos on the internet. And I'm like, why did I post that? But we all started somewhere. We were all once uneducated. And there's no reason why we should be discouraging anybody from getting outside. I don't want Winnie to ever be told that she's not allowed to be in a space because of what she looks like, because of what she's wearing, because of her skill level, to a point. I mean, you shouldn't be going down a double diamond if you can't. But I think really making sure that we are being good role models in how we talk about things, not saying, oh, that person over there, they're feeding the squirrels, like that's such a stupid move. Like it's people like them who ruin things.
How about this one? Look at their Patagucci. I'm guilty of saying Patagucci. Mm-hmm. And I have Patagonia stuff, but Patagucci.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is you don't need fancy gear. While yes, some of those high name brands have more sustainable practices and stuff like that, you can 100% go to Walmart and buy some non-cotton athletic clothing and be 100% geared up to go outside. Mm-hmm. So there's no reason for us to disregard someone. Obviously, maybe if they're wearing like high heels on some crazy boardwalk or something, you might want to say, hey, just so you know, like that trail gets a little sketchy up there if you have different shoes in the car. But there's a nice way to have those conversations, and there's a negative way. And I think it's really important for our children to see us being inclusive and welcoming to all people and educational, rather than talking about that behind someone's back. Also, Sam and I were discussing, and I think this is especially a good female topic, is using very specific language in regards to body image. So there's 2 ways to phrase something. Wow, I just ate 7 bajillion pancakes and I'm feeling super flabby. We need to make sure we crush at least 3 miles today during our hike. Or, you know, I'm feeling a little sluggish and I know that some fresh air will make me feel fantastic. 2 totally different statements that ultimately are saying the same thing. But one is really judging and setting these aggressive goals and can put that pressure on your kid that like, oh, we need to do this because of this. And I like forgetting what I'm saying, but basically being very specific in how you choose to set goals, how you choose to talk about the clothing you wear, how to choose how you talk about somebody else's outfit, how they look. There's no body type that doesn't belong outside.
Right. And I think that I really liked the example on the presentation that you gave, that so like it says, I love hiking because it's healthy for my mind and helps me be strong, versus we are hiking at least 3 miles because it's almost swimsuit season. And I know I've been guilty of that, because I have gone down rabbit holes in my late 20s, early 30s, before I started having kids, being like, oh, I want to look really good after I hike, because I'm going to the beach at Tahoe and I want to take pictures and blah, blah, blah. And then now I'm like, well, I don't even really like wearing my Victoria's Secret swimsuits, because they're not, like, the fabric isn't what I want. They're not the style that I want anymore. But now I'm more of like, I pushed out 2 children and I feel badass. Sorry.
PG.
Like PG, sorry. I know, do they swear in PG movies now? Or did they used to in the 80s? Sorry. But anyways, like I mean, I wish that I loved my body more before than I had kids, before I had kids, and then I do now. Like, and I think maybe it's a coming of age thing. I don't know, but it's for me, when I think about the outdoors and what it does for me, like I've been saying in this entire hour, is that even my worst mornings, Fridays, I don't work Fridays, but I know Fridays are my day to get outside. I'm like, I'm going snowshoeing, hiking. I don't care what I'm doing, but I'm doing it because I know the endorphins and like the good feelers that your brain sets out after you do something like that. That's why I do it, because it helps my mental health. And then I'm just in a better mood and I'm like, whoop, whoop, and I'm like dancing. And I was like playing Nelly yesterday while I was cleaning. I was like, yeah. So anyways, I just want, yeah. But yes,
No.
you said that very well.
Thank you. My mouth words felt chaotic.
Mouth words. That's going to be a new hashtag, mouth words.
Mouth words.
Yeah. Do you want to, are we good for that one?
Yep. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to take on this section for hiking locations in Reno. And I think I've done every single one that is on here, except 2 of them. Maybe 3 of them, because Damani Ranch, I don't go there a whole lot because it's really crowded and busy, but these are all trails that you can get to within, depending on where you live. Like, I'm in Northwest Reno, so it probably takes me anywhere from, well, let's see, is Hunter Creek on here? So it probably takes me anywhere from 5 minutes to 40 minutes to get to any of these. And being from the Midwest, now living in the mountains, if I have to drive an hour somewhere, I don't care, because it's beautiful. I'm in the mountains, blasting my music. I love Angels and Airwaves and Blink-182, so that's what I listen to. But yeah, so Southeast and East, Hidden Valley Regional Park, that's really pretty. You can probably see really, really good sunsets from there.
Yep.
Scavenger Hills Trailhead, I just did that one. It's great. And there's markers that like tell you about the area. So that'd be a really good kid-friendly one that you could do. I trail ran that one recently. Lockwood
I was gonna
Trailhead.
say Huffaker Hills. If you have kids who love airplanes, that one's fantastic, because there are airplanes going over your head every 10 minutes. Me and Winnie didn't get anywhere because she just looked at the airplanes. The whole time.
And there's great picnic benches, so you could go up there for a sunset hike. Bring dinner, and then the Lockwood Trailhead, I haven't done this one, but I believe it's along the river, and there's a lot of wild horses, I think. And
that one's really pretty.
Yeah. And then Mustang Ranch Trail, that's another one I haven't done. But then, of course, because I live in this area, Northwest, Tom Cook trails are really great. You can either go, once you hike up, you can either go right or left. And if you go, you did, good job. My other child's on YouTube now. go right, and it's called Hole in the Wall Hike, and you can find it on the All Trails app. And then if you go left, the trail hooks up with Hunter Creek. So if you wanted to do like a super long, like 7-8 mile hike, you could start at Tom Cook Trail, hike all the way to the waterfall and come down. That'd be really far. But yeah, and then Hunter Creek Trail, that takes you through a beautiful canyon. I highly recommend it in May. It's because all the snow is melting, the water's rushing, and the waterfall is huge and beautiful. And then Evans Canyon, you can get there easily by Rancho, just go park at Rancho, and you can make your way there. The Keystone Trailhead, and then Peavine is like an up and coming mountain trail area. I don't know how to phrase it, but ever since I've lived up here, Peavine just has new trails all the time. A lot of mountain biking trails, a lot of ATV trails you can hike. I've made it up to like the first hill that has the antenna, the towers on it. So I still haven't gotten to the peak, but I've made it to like one. Peavine's beautiful. Though summer, there's no shade. No shade. Dangerous, probably lots of rattlesnakes. I would not recommend it after like June, or maybe like starting July 1st. I would not recommend it.
Yeah, I think that's something to consider in Nevada, with hiking with kids, especially in the summertime, is we go out in the come like June.
Mhm.
It's from 7 in the morning until 10, 11, you're hiking, and then you're not hiking again until after 5, just because it's too hot. It's not worth the heat exhaustion, the lugging them on your back, and the sweat and the water, the weight, and so for us, we always plan for early morning or evening come high summertime if we're not heading up to the mountains.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And Tom Cook Trail, I'll say, because I have not been referencing how kid-friendly they are, but Tom Cook Trail, I mean, it flattens out. You basically just go through the switchbacks, and then eventually you get to the top of the foothills, and then it's very just level. So great for beginners. Hunter Creek Trail, like I said, I would rate it as intermediate. There's some sections that are really rocky. Like my husband's almost sprained an ankle when we've been trail running on that. And like I said earlier, I would not feel comfortable taking my kids on that trail just yet. Evans Canyon, I'd say that's pretty friendly. And I think there's also markers in there that tell you about the vegetation and the plants and animals and stuff.
Yeah, all of Rancho area
Mhm.
has some decent trails, and Evans Canyon's one of them. And a lot of these trails, they're kind of suggestions for, and you can look them up on All Trails and different apps, but either for you as a parent to get out and set a schedule or make a calendar date. So like Sam gets out every Friday for hike without children, because I think there is still that identity that it's something to come home and say, hey, what did you do today? I hiked this awesome trail, and look at these pictures, and it was beautiful, and I felt really peaceful, and I was feeling angry earlier, but being outside really helped. And I think having that healthy coping mechanism is going to be a really important skill to pass on to your kids. And knowing like, hey, it is okay, like just like how you go and sit in a corner if you're having a lot of emotions, or you go to your room. That's the same thing for us. When we get frustrated and stuff, we need to set time for ourselves to reset.
Mhm.
So I think that's really important too. And a lot of these trails, so some of them are good for getting out with your kids and just having those lower expectations, or looking at the trail to figure out where to go, or those bigger, like, hey, you know what? I set aside with my partner that I have 2 hours on Friday. Let's go. I'm crushing it. I just need fresh air. I'm almost going to leave the phone at home. That way I have no distractions.
Yep.
I think that's a good concept too. So some of these trails are kid friendly. Some of them are more mission-y for grown-ups.
Yeah. So, yeah, like Leah was saying, I I'm very, very fortunate to have a flexible schedule at the university. I only work part-time and I only teach 3 times a year. And then the College of Engineering, I am 62.5% employed, like 10 months out of the year. And then I'm full-time for 2 months out of the year because I run summer camps for kids. But that leaves me like, I don't know, I haven't done the math, but however many hours that I like Tuesday mornings, all right, I'm going to go for a trail run on Peavine. And I know I have to be home by 10 a.m. to be showered and ready for work at 11. So I'm very fortunate. And I have a supervisor where I can flex my hours any way that I want. So if I want to leave for a camping trip on Thursday, I just move my hours from Thursday to Tuesday and I work a full workday on Tuesday, so a lot of people don't get, I don't think a lot of people have that flexibility, which I hope after these COVID times that businesses move in a direction where they put mental health at the forefront and realize people don't necessarily have to work 40 hours a week to complete their job. Like I only work 25 hours a week and sometimes I'm still twiddling my thumbs. And that's just because I work my butt off 25 hours a week that I work. And then Fridays, it's like I'm going snowshoeing. I'll go to the rock climbing gym. I'll go to Tahoe. And usually Fridays, I'm like, oh, I'm actually going to drive like an hour and a half to 2 hours to get to a trailhead and do like a big thing. But Southwest Reno has really great trails that are shaded, like Thomas Creek, the Whites Creek, Galena Creek area. You need help? Okay.
Yeah, those are all really good transitionary season trails. So
yeah,
right now, or not transitionary. So they're good in winter because they do get snow. So you don't have to go all the way up to the mountain to get snow. But come summertime when it's too hot in the desert, you don't have to travel that far, but you still get that coverage and those water sources.
Yeah, yep. And Tahoe Meadows, South Trailhead, the whole Tahoe Meadows or the Mount Rose Meadows area, I love that. It's so easy for families and kids. I mean, you might even, if you have a pretty hardcore jogger or something, you could maybe make it. Like I have a pretty hardcore jogger that I destroyed my first pregnancy, but I was also going to share. So these are Reno locations, but I've also, my husband and I, we've taken our girls on day trips out towards Fallon, where Sand Mountain is. And then there's a historical area that there's petroglyphs.
Grimes Point.
What is it called?
Grimes Point.
Oh,
it's right outside.
Grimes Point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so cool. And then there's another area that you can drive back into, and then there's caves, and then there's hiking trails, because I guess it's like the Lahontan area where the Lahontan seabed or lake used to be.
This is where a fourth grader would come really into handy.
Yes, because they probably know all this, and I'm just, smart. I would not be successful on Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? But that area, great day trip. The girls loved it. We didn't get to go in the caves, but like you get to see the opening, and then you're going on these hikes, and the view is beautiful. We've gone to Pyramid Lake several times. We also have a Jeep Wrangler, so we take our girls off-roading. So we get to go, to Leah, what's it called? Whatever, doesn't matter. It's out towards Pyramid Lake. But where else have we gone? Wherever, because Nevada, don't fence me in. You can just like go wherever you want.
2 point.
So yeah, but I'll stop blabbing. And now I'm just getting excited because I want to go hiking. Oh, well, never mind. Great Basin's on here.
So I think Sam was gonna talk a little bit because we have not ventured super far with Winnie just because of her age and COVID and travel restrictions. But because Sam has Ella, who's a little bit older, she did get to kind of do a little bit more last year. But I think a thing that we were going to touch on with the visiting national parks and these other locations around Nevada is the concept of you might not be going for what you pre-child were going for. You might be focusing, so for example, in Great Basin National Park, you might not be sending Wheeler Peak. But a good thing to think about is working with your partner, if you have somebody, to, hey, what if I get to do this objective today? You hang out at the creek or the campground and whatever, and flip-flopping that, because I think there's also that shared responsibility to watch out for each other's mental health and have shared opportunities for outdoor success.
Yeah, and that's another conversation we've had too, is just communicating with your partner what it is that you need. What is it that you need to be a successful parent, to have great mental health? Like on the weekends, sometimes like I'll tell my husband, hey, I want to take just one of the girls on a hike because I want alone time with them. And I don't really ask for alone time on the weekends because I get my alone time during the work week, which is nice. But it's more so for him, I'll ask him, what is it that you want to do this weekend? What can I do for you so that you can get outside? Because he likes to, bike, and he likes to rock climb and hike as well. So I'm like, how can I support you so that you can be a healthy, successful parent? And then we took Ella on her first camping trip when she was 9 or 10 months old. We went to Death Valley National Park. I was 20 weeks pregnant with Zoe. Windstorm came in, it snowed, we got stuck in Tonopah, but it was great. It was super fun, beautiful drive. Ella did fantastic. She didn't cry or anything. It was, I don't know, it was great. We got covered in sand. But yeah, a lot of driving around, a lot of getting out, taking pictures. And I was pregnant anyways, and it was hot. So didn't do much in Death Valley except do a lot of sightseeing. But then we did Great Basin National Park last year with both girls. And it was our first summer with our tent trailer. So we have a military trailer with a CVT pop-up tent, and we kind of decked it out with like fun, flashy lights that the girls like. And so we learned a lot about, if I need to cook dinner, then Jeremy has to watch the girls. Or if he needs to put up the tent, then I have to watch the girls. We can't both be doing something at the same time, because one of your children will do something and get hurt. Like Ella fell with the tongs, sliced her finger open, there's blood everywhere. So we learned that lesson. But Great Basin National Park, they have like an ADA trail at the top where you start Wheeler Peak. And Ella did the whole thing. It's like a mile. And she did that, and she wasn't even 2 yet. So, and sorry, Julie, if we're getting over time. But yeah, so those are my experiences in national parks with the girls. They were really, really good experiences. So
I think the other thing to think about with going camping with kids is that it's always going to be a learning experience. Every time you go out, you're going to learn one more thing. Once you finally feel like you have it down, their routine's going to change and you don't have it down anymore. So it's always a learning experience. You're always on your toes. And I think the biggest advice I can give to people is just find a good support system to help. Go, the more eyes, the better. So go hiking in a group, go camping in a group. If you can pass, like I went cross country skiing like a month ago with Winnie on my back alone, and peeing was an adventure.
did you have a pee funnel?
No. And the snow is really deep. And so, but I can't do it with her on my back. So then it's this, but if I had someone with me, it would have been a lot easier. So really try to, and I know it's a hard time right now with COVID because everyone's circle is so small, but try to find somebody. Try to find someone to go out with, try to find that second set of eyeballs because they can move fast. And it's also nice to have that person to kind of lean on and be like, hey, I need help. You don't necessarily have to do things all alone. And I think that's also a good skill for your children to see too, is that like my parent is okay asking for help because it's okay to show weakness. We don't need to do everything by ourselves. But at the same time, I don't want to discourage anyone from trying. Because even going to the park, like the playgroundy park that has a trail behind it, that's step one. And then Julie, you can finish us off.
Sam and Leah, that was amazing. And for anyone who's interested, this is being recorded and it will be up on our YouTube channel under our webinar playlist next Friday. So if there are things that you missed because this was a ton of information, it will be up. Or if you know that you have some outdoorsy moms that you want to share it with, it'll be up on our YouTube where you can see it. But thank you so much, Sam and Leah. If anyone has any last minute questions before we head on with the rest of our Friday nights, now's the time. We didn't have any sitting before we stopped, so but people have been pretty active in the chats too. All right, it looks like we're all good. Thanks a lot, Sam and Leah.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
I think just as a conclusion, if you are in Reno based or even not, we do host an Instagram and a Facebook page, which I think has been super helpful in this time of COVID when you can't necessarily have in-person support. So if you want to give us a follow, I believe on Instagram, we're wildbabes_NVSG for Nevada Support Group. So if you're looking for tips, tricks to get outside, need to vent, need advice, anything like that, we're kind of there for you. The platform is definitely better on Facebook to initiate a conversation. So we have a group on there as well. So you can give us a follow. And we're a bunch of scatterbrained moms. So sometimes it's super consistent, sometimes it's not.
Yep. And we do everything from our cell phones.
Yeah.
So it's not like
probably on the toilet.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks for shouting that out, Leah. I almost forgot. Please give them a follow, join their Facebook page, meet other outdoorsy moms, get your kids outside. But thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you, Julie. We're so happy that you found us. We'll see you around Northwest Reno.
Yes, I hope so. Have a good one, guys.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Bye.